half attention to Daily Mail headlines that runs through her life is she's blowing up families. I mean, she seems like she's really caused a lot of problems in her husband's family. Clearly, she's gone after your family.
She entered the palace as a heroine of a new era and left as one of the decade's most polarizing figures. Based on public interviews, media deals, and appearances that set the internet ablaze, some claim this isn't coincidence, but choreography, a carefully chosen frame, a precise line, perfect timing. But that's not the most shocking part, because when family voices surface and commentators split into camps, a more uncomfortable version of the story begins to break through, and it threatens to strip the fairy tale down to its bones.
No, we were kind of puzzled when both sides of the family were kept away from the royal wedding, and we started wondering, what's up with this? Like, why? And we started to realize, aha, when you have a wedding and people start drinking champagne at the reception, they start talking.
Right.
For years, the world was shown a single picture, a noble, compassionate, modern woman reshaping an outdated institution. But according to her half-sister Samantha and a chorus of commentators, that image was nothing more than a polished facade. It's claimed that from an early age, Meghan mastered the art of adaptation, shifting her accent, her tone, even her entire style depending on the room she was in. Some described her as a chameleon, capable of mirroring the powerful, while slowly pushing everyone else into the background. And while the media framed her as a victim of circumstance, those closer to the family insist that ambition was the true engine, not someone shaped by hardship, but by an unrelenting hunger for influence and control. Behind the smiles and the tears, critics say there was calculation, not spontaneity. And that raises the first major question. If the public image is so carefully built, how much of the truth ever really reaches us?
Could the motive be for keeping both sides of the family away?
That's right.
The stories would come out. So apparently, according to other journalists, we found out that there were a lot of porcupines probably told to the royals and even to Harry when they met her, and in order to cover up.
And if the public image looked like a carefully arranged showcase, behind closed doors, tension began to build. According to Samantha, one of the most troubling moves was the deliberate isolation of entire branches of the family. While the world admired the glamorous royal wedding, close relatives were kept at a distance. Why? In her words, because one glass of champagne and one unguarded conversation could reveal truths that didn't fit the fairy tale script. Commentators point to something else: contradictions in the narratives. In televised appearances, Meghan described a childhood marked by loneliness and hardship. But according to her sister and their father Thomas, the reality was quite different. Private schools, support, and opportunities that hardly fit the image of a survivor. Here, the conflict isn't just personal anymore. It becomes a battle of storytelling. Who convinces the world their version is real? And just when it feels like everything has been said, the next blow lands.
You never worked for the embassy. What do you mean you only did a 5-week study program? So our Uncle Mike, who worked for the embassy, as a favor to Dad paid for a 5-week study program. Uncle Mike threw in a letter of recommendation to be kind.
And just as the public was growing accustomed to yet another family feud, something far bigger emerged. In one interview that shook even seasoned journalists, Samantha delivered a chilling line. The Meghan the world thinks it knows never existed. This wasn't just a comment. It was an accusation that the entire fairy tale was staged from beginning to end. According to Samantha, behind every tear and every smile was a plan, each statement rehearsed, each camera angle carefully chosen. Even the famous Oprah interview that moved millions was, she claimed, part of a larger script, designed to cast Meghan as both victim and heroine at the same time. It's said that this very strategy turned personal struggles into global product, documentaries, podcasts, multi-million-dollar deals. And while some applauded her courage, others saw cold calculation. But the most dangerous part for her image was something else. The fact that this time the accusations weren't from anonymous critics, but from her own family.
The half-sister's daughter is. And so, with Ashley, the guidance at the time was to not have her come to our wedding.
Wow.
Firstly, yeah, wow, what a porcupine. When that happened,
Minutes after Samantha's statements, the internet literally exploded. On social media, dozens of hashtags appeared, some in support, others in outrage. Exposed videos flooded YouTube, memes stormed Twitter, and forums filled with people comparing clips, hunting for contradictions, and piecing together timelines. Media outlets across the globe jumped on the story. Some praised Samantha for her courage to speak such heavy words. Others dismissed her as bitter and jealous. But regardless of the stance, the result was undeniable. The narrative could no longer be ignored, and the louder the noise grew online, the harder it became to defend the fairy tale image. Once doubt entered the public space, it turned into an avalanche that only gained momentum. But if you think this is where it ends, wait, the most painful blow is still to come.
I just recently found out, it's really sad because Ashley and I were on talking terms. I thought, bonding after not speaking for a while, even though we did speak. I wanted my kids to be raised with their grandparents because I didn't trust babysitters.
And just when it seemed the story couldn't cut any deeper, Samantha turned the spotlight on Harry. In her account, the prince who once embodied strength, independence, and military honor had gradually become a shadow of himself. She claimed his voice no longer spoke independently, that every interview was carefully aligned, and that his personal story was rewritten to fit a larger narrative. Commentators added that this collapse wasn't merely a personal tragedy, but part of a wider strategy to present him as a partner in a brand, rather than as an heir to military and royal tradition. In this way, Harry's decline became the most dramatic evidence of Meghan's influence, according to Samantha and other critics. And here lies the irony many point out. The woman who claimed she needed rescuing from the institution had in fact turned the prince himself into the one who needed saving. The world is beginning to see the crack. The story that for years glittered like a fairy tale now sounds more like a warning. And perhaps the most uncomfortable truth is this: the spotlight doesn't always reveal reality. Sometimes it only makes the shadows darker.
Wheelchair, Sam, and you were going through, and you admit it, you were going through a very difficult divorce, but you always knew that your daughter was safe with her paternal grandparents.
And that was the priority. So to weaponize something so sensitive against me, to lie is crazy.
But if all of this is true, then what remains of the fairy tale the world has watched for so many years? Were we really witnessing a love story, or just a carefully staged performance? Where does compassion end and strategy begin? And most of all, if the truth is hidden behind the curtain, who will dare to pull it all the way open?
My daughter seemingly was holding a grudge and feeling like I was the reason she couldn't come to the wedding.
It's as if Meghan is now trying to turn your own daughter against you.
Right. And sadly, my daughter went on and had her own life as I'd always wanted.